Welcome back to the channel and this series where we are doing simple backgrounds that anybody can accomplish. Today's series will cover 3 simple backgrounds using acrylic paint. So this is just Craft Smart acrylic paint I got from the Michael's store. This is Dragonfly Glaze, which is also an acrylic paint, but it's a specialty paint. So we're going to use those paints. Going to use a variety of paintbrushes. Any type will do. I also have a sponge foam applicator, a regular ceramic plate, and a sea sponge. So those are the items that we're going to use, along with an old paintbrush and some Peebles drawing gum. So those are the items we're going to use, and we'll do 3 simple backgrounds. We're going to start off easy with a simple background, and this time we are going to be doing the background of the actual picture instead of the surrounding page area. So these pictures already have a black background, and if you notice, there is a blue shimmer to this page. So what I'm going to do is we're going to start off with a clean page. Because it is already black, we are simply going to apply Dragonfly Glaze, and we're going to apply it full strength, and this is the violet blue green shift. So I'm going to paint it with a paintbrush directly onto that, and then for the moon we are going to bring in some Stickles moon dust, and I will show you what that looks like in a swatch book. So the swatch of the moon dust is this bottom one there, and it is just sparkly. It's called moon dust, so when I saw the moon there, I thought it would be a great opportunity to use it. So I'm going to shake this up. The Dragonfly Glaze, I just use a regular ceramic palette from the thrift store. You don't need a lot. I also have a bit of water to begin with, a paintbrush that's damp. So just with a damp paintbrush, it looks clear, or sorry, it looks white. And all we're going to do, and I'll zoom you in. So we're going to paint over the whole black area. And right away you can see that it's adding some color. And it's adding basically blue sparkle, so it kind of looks like the night sky, and it just makes a nice effect. So you don't need to put it on thickly, just a nice thin coat. And I will continue this and speed the camera up. Being careful not to get paint onto the stars, because I will want to paint those themselves. The little white dots are fine. They probably would look okay. In order to make sure you've got all the coverage that you want, if you just tip the page a bit, and you'll be able to see if there's any spots missing. Instant results, which is always nice. Rinse off the paintbrush. Okay, now I'm going to take some of this moon dust gel, medium, and we're going to apply it with the back end of a palette knife. If you don't have this, you could use stickles, regular stickles. You could use Recollections glitter paste. I'm just using what I have on hand, so use my stash. And I always encourage you to look and see what you have and use up that. You don't need all the shiny new bits. Okay. That is going to dry. Come back at the end of this video for a final look. For our second project today, we are going to be doing a double page spread in A Million Sea Creatures by Lulu Mayo. So it's a smaller book, and I have chosen a page, and I have gone ahead and done my first coat on this side. I did a solid background with the matte acrylic paint in Pool Blue, and I used a flat, basically a 1 centimeter flat brush to paint that on. On the opposite side, I used the same Pool Blue, and I used a sea sponge to sponge around. So I wanted similar colors for this to be a cohesive page, but I did not want to have the exact same on both pages. So that's one way of doing it, and it also allows you to use up your paint once you have it on your paint palette. Now, you could stop here if you wanted, but that wasn't my intent to start with. My intent was then to put some Blue Ice Pearl. It is a metallic paint, and it's in a slightly different color of blue. So I'll just give it a little shake, and I'm going to put a little bit on my palette. You don't need much. Using a softened sea sponge, I'm going to pick it up. I'm also going to grab the round mask that I used for the other books. It will do a good enough job here to stay close, but I'm going to do a bit of sponging around this area, just tapping a little bit of paint on the tip of my sponge. We're going to simply sponge it on. Now, it's lighter blue and it is metallic, so it is going to show up, but for now, it doesn't show a lot on my camera, but trust me, it will be there. So I'm going to do this around this whole area. Shielding the paper or the picture, main picture, with this cardboard. Okay. On this side, we've already done a treatment of the Pool Blue using the sea sponge. Now I'm going to come back with the same metallic, and if I put that on, you'll notice there isn't a lot to show. So what I'm actually going to do is use the blue flash that I had used previously. I still have some on my plate, and I'm going to use that. And what this is going to do is going to give me a blue sparkle to the page. And you're not going to notice it right away until you start to move the page. I do like to use a sea sponge. It's a natural sponge. You can use other sponges, of course, but it washes out nice, and once you buy one, you don't have to, you can keep reusing it over and over. Okay, going to check that that's there. And we're going to let that dry. And we're also going to let this side dry. And we'll check back in a little bit. For the extra step, so while this is drying, this is dry on this side. And it's very light. So what I'm also going to do is I'm taking a little bit of the Recollections blue glitter paste, and I'm just putting that onto the palette, just smearing it down. Just got it out with a paintbrush. I'm not going to paint it on though. I am going to use the sponge, and I'm going to lightly sponge. So just pick up a little bit and dab it off. And over top of the 2 layers that we already have on this page, we are going to lightly dab on some. And I'm going to actually grab a blank piece of paper and put it up against here so I don't get any of the darker blue on this side. Whole trick for sponging is very light hand, and variegate how you're holding or pushing down so that you're not getting the same exact image with every push of your sponge. Okay. So now we'll let it's a bit more light in here, and you can see. So the dark blue is very light glitter, and there are 2 blues underneath. And then on this side we've got lighter glitter over top of the blue paint. So the colors go together, and it's a cohesive look, but it's a very different look of each page. So that's another example of using paint and embellishing just with flat painting and then sponging. Easy to do, anybody can do it. That's example number 2. The third example for today's video is going to be a page from the Sea of Colors. Now this book is Amazon printed paper again, but it's very thin and it doesn't hold up well to most water type mediums. Even when you're doing the eyeballs with glossy accents, it's quite difficult to have the paper not warp. But we are going to use some paint, so acrylic paint instead of watercolor paint, so it should be help with the warping a little bit. What I have done so far is I have used some Peebles drawing gum, and you shake it up, you apply it with an old ratty paintbrush, and it provides a barrier so that we can paint over the area easier without worrying so much about getting onto the actual image. So I've painted over top of all of the little starfish and also the narwhal's horn, whatever that is, and the rest, the outside of the narwhal itself. So that was step 1. I've let that dry. It is tacky because it is basically a rubber. I will end up removing the rubber later with rubbing it using an eraser. So that's how I get it off without damaging the paper. So in this example, we're just going to kind of go with the flow. We're going to do some acrylic paint, and we've also got some color shift paint, which is blue flash, so we can do some of that. We're just going to kind of play around and see how it goes. The paper is not treated. The only thing that's on here is the drawing mask. Okay, so we're going to start off with the lighter blue. So we're going to do some of that. Okay, we're going to apply it with just a flat paintbrush. And we're going to, I want to go over the area, but I kind of want to leave it brushy. So it's not solid. That'll also help it look like there's movement. I'm going all in the same direction, back and forth. Okay, it looks worse than it is. Remember, art has a messy phase, so this would be that. Okay, so you can see the strokes. A little bit too much over here, so we will need to lighten that up. But now I'm going to take the black flash. As you can see, it kind of goes on purple. And then we'll actually just going to go in a few areas, because I don't want it everywhere. And what happens with the black flash is when you tip the paper, it changes color. I am going to take a smaller brush now. So this is a 0, and I'm going to actually do the dark or the circles around the fish, and I'm going to paint this black flash directly onto those circles. I will show you a few in real time, and then I will speed the camera up so you're not having to painfully watch me. Now I will come in later with a gel pen to draw around the circles, so I don't need to be super neat, but I do want to pretty much stay within the circle area. Okay, this is how it's looking. It's still, you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, this doesn't look great. It'll look better once we've taken off the masking fluid and we're able to move it in the light once it's all done. But remember, this is just the background. We still have the image to color, and you will see that in a future completed pages video, because we are just accomplishing backgrounds at this stage. I am happy with the fact that I've got all the brush strokes going in a similar direction. Kind of looks like he's swimming upwards through this area, so we're gonna leave that, and we'll come back and show you this after it's dried. So looking at this, I'm checking out my paint job on the smaller areas, and I actually want it to be a little bit more noticeable, so I'm going to come back in and do a second coat, and that is on these areas. I want them to be noticeably that color with the flash, so I don't want the whites of the paper shining through. So I'm just going to use a piece of paper under my hand, and I'm going to go back and repaint and touch up all of these so that it second coat. And that's the thing with acrylic paint, is that sometimes it takes more than one coat. And you kind of don't know until you've put the coat down, you've let it dry, and you can kind of then look at it. So it's kind of like when you're painting a wall. Sometimes you can do it in 1 or 2 coats, sometimes it takes 3. So painting is a creative process, and the paper and the color of the paint also will dictate whether or not you need 1 or 2 coats. So, and once it's dry, we will come in and we will remove the drawing gum or the masking fluid, and we'll get a better idea. Then when we are coloring this, we can add some sparkle and some gel pen and all of that. So the background is the base where we're starting from, and doesn't have to be a masterpiece at this phase of the game. While we're waiting for that to dry, we can avoid those areas, and I can show you how I'm going to remove the masking fluid. So I'm taking a clean rubber eraser, so just make sure it's clean. And we are just going to gently push up, and we are going to come at it. It's a little star, so I'm coming at it from all of the 5 points to the center. Then once we have it in the center, we can simply lift it up. And that's how to get rid of the drawing gum. You don't want to push hard because you don't want to rip the paper. This is very cheap quality paper. There we go. This it's thinner than the normal Amazon paper, so that's what I'm calling it, cheap paper. It's not the quality of the work or anything from the illustrator. I'm very happy with the pictures, but the paper seems to be, even on the introduction of this book, it says it's not to be used for watercolor mediums, so we're asking the paper to do more than it was designed for. So you can also rub it with your finger. The problem with that is you can deposit oils from your hand onto the paper, so I prefer to use, you can get special erasers for this, but really they're just plastic gum erasers, so I would prefer to be frugal and not pay the extra. So this is the process. I will continue on, and I'll bring you back when I've got all of it removed. Okay, and here is the page all cleaned up, and we've got the darker blue flash around it, and then it's ready to go. The blue flash will, as it's still a little bit wet around these dark areas, so it'll keep drying. But yeah, I'm happy with the way this has turned out. The page is held up really well, so definitely if you're going to be adding paint in here, if you're going to do watercolors, definitely treat it with a gesso or watercolor ground. If you're going to do acrylic, just don't make it a solid, just use a little bit. So there is that example. So that was example number 3. Pages, they've been dry now for a day, and wanted to show you how they look, because I don't think that before the shine was coming across. So now they are dry, and the shine is there. So 2 different pages, but very similar. And then our last example, this guy, and he has got the dragonfly glaze. If I can get to the and then the moon. So those are our 3 easy examples of how to use some acrylic paint in your backgrounds without spending hours and hours getting a background done and getting super frustrated and needing to know exactly how to paint. I hope this was useful. I hope you try some of these techniques in your coloring book. And if you do enjoy these videos, hit the like button if you could, and leave a comment below which of those 3 examples were your favorite. Until next time, have a creative and colorful week. Bye-bye.